you are in for a treat. This upcoming guest was so good, I couldn't just do one episode with him. So today and on the next show, I have Tim Fitzpatrick from Rialto Marketing talking about how to expand your thought, your process, your platform, your product, your service, your book, whatever it is that you're trying to get out there. We're going to expand it.
Welcome to Advance with Mike Acker, the podcast designed to help entrepreneurs, business leaders, and professionals alike break through barriers by improving their practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Your host is a best-selling author, executive coach, and founder of the Advance Public Speaking School and Advantage Publishing Group, two companies dedicated to providing an edge for leaders. Find out more about Mike at mikeacker.com. Now here's your host, Mike Acker.
Tim, thank you so much for joining me on the program today. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Mike. I'm excited to dig into this today.
Absolutely. So before we dive in, and we're really going to cover fundamentals of marketing, and not just fundamentals of marketing if you have a business, but even marketing, how it applies to marketing yourself. Even if you're looking for a job, and you want to get yourself out there. So that'd be fun. But before we dive into all of that, tell us a little bit about who you are and why are you coming on to talk about marketing?
Sure. So I'll start with at the beginning of my entrepreneurial journey, which was right after I got out of college. I was not an entrepreneurial person as a kid. But when I got out of college, I was a math major. I had no idea what I wanted to do. And my dad had been a business owner for a long time. He was a manufacturer's rep, which is, for those people that don't know, he was a middleman. He took orders from dealers, passed them on to the factory, makes a commission because of that. A couple of years before I graduated from college, he started a wholesale distribution company that was related to what he was already doing. And so when I got out, he had no full-time employees in the company at that point. And I said, look, I know you need some help. Let me work for you for the summer. And it'll give me time to interview for jobs and figure out what the hell I want to do with my life. Well, he said, hey, cool, I'd love to have you. Well, 3 months went by like that. And I was like, I don't want to do anything else. Can I keep doing this? And he said, absolutely. So I ended up being the first full-time employee. I managed the company on a day-to-day basis. I was very fortunate in that my dad gave me a ton of autonomy because he trusted me. And so, he was off doing his rep business thing and I was managing the distribution company day to day. And it worked out really, really well. It was an experience I would never want to change. I got to see a totally different side of my dad than I did growing up. It was an amazing experience. We grew the company about 60% a year for 9 years, and then we sold it.
Wow. I
stayed on with that company for another 3 years. And then I got laid off. So I got laid off from the company that bought us, which happens more often.
You got laid off by your dad. So
well, no, I did not get laid off by my dad, thankfully. That would have been awkward. But you know what? Taking responsibility is super important to me. So if he would have laid me off, it would have been for a good reason. And I would have taken responsibility for that. But that did not happen. So after I got out of distribution, I ended up getting involved in residential real estate. I did not enjoy it. I did it for about 3 years. Put myself outside of my comfort zone every day. So I grew a lot in doing that. But man, I started waking up and I was like, I don't want to go to work today. And that's no place to be. So I started looking at how I can shift, where my skill sets really lied, what I loved about being in distribution. And that's when I transitioned into marketing, which is what I'm doing today. And we primarily work with service-based businesses, helping them just simplify marketing so that they can grow with less stress. And we do that with what we're going to talk about today, which is helping them create and implement a plan to communicate the right message to the right people. That's what marketing is all about. So many people skip the fundamentals because they're just battling information overload. They're overwhelmed with all these things that are going on with marketing, and it doesn't need to be that way. So that's kind of what we do in my story in a nutshell.
I love it. I love that you said something that really ties into what I was reading about today. I read about how Elon Musk works 120 hours per week, something crazy. And so they said, how does he do that? Is it time management? And the person who put the article together said this, it's because he really enjoys it. And so it's just interesting when you talked about the first job, how much you enjoyed it, and the second job, how much you hated it.
Yes.
And just as a side note that has nothing to do with marketing, the more you like your job, the more you put yourself into it, and so on and so forth. And maybe somebody is thinking, hey, should I start out a job? Should I start a company? And we'll give you something to think about that would help you with your idea. So that'll be fun.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome.
And we're going to do this in two parts. So today, right here, we're going to do about 20, 30 minutes of this intro part, and then we'll dive into more of the messaging and actually how to do the plan. But let's start on the three fundamentals. So for everybody hearing us, three fundamentals that we talked about beforehand. The first one is going to be that target market we'll really dive in today, and then the messaging, and then having the plan. So let's get into that target market. Talk to us about, first of all, what that is, define that, and then let's dive into the topic.
Absolutely. So your target market is who you're going to serve and how you're going to serve those people. You can't hit a target that you can't see, right? Targets are narrow. We need to hone in on who we intend to attract and work with. A lot of us, myself included, have made the mistake. We get in business and we're like, who am I going to work with? Well, if you're got a heartbeat and you're willing to pay me, cool, I'm going to work with you. And the vast majority of us find that we end up working with a number of clients that it's not a good fit. And when we work with clients that are not a good fit, it's not good for the client. It's not good for us. It's not fun. Sometimes it's not profitable. We need to work with people that we can do great work for and that we love working with, that are profitable. So within any given target market, say, let's just take a broad market, right? Small business owners. Okay. If you say you're going to your target market is small business owners, that's fine. But not every small business owner is going to be a great client for you. We need to dig down within your target market and figure out who those ideal clients are going to be within that market. I will say, I think if you say you're going to talk, you're reaching out to small business owners, it's a pretty broad market. I think you probably want to narrow it down even more. One of the biggest hangups people have when I say you need to narrow things down a little bit is they're like, well, gosh, Tim, I'm going to miss out on business. And there's two things to consider here. One, when I say narrow down, I'm not saying those are the only people you're going to work with. I'm saying those are the only people that you are going to focus your marketing efforts on. Because unless you have an unlimited budget,
that's a good distinction right there. And
it's super important.
It's because when I tell people how to write a book, for example, something that I do and I do on the side, I actually have a small company that does that. I tell people, pick two people that you're going to write a book for, not everybody. Now, obviously, you're going to get more than those two people. But if you shoot for everybody, you're going to get nobody. If you shoot for some, you're going to get that surrounding group. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Because you can't resonate with everyone. It's impossible, right? And even if you think about, so I talk about narrowing your market. Think about Amazon, right? We look at Amazon today and go, oh my gosh, they have their hands in freaking darn near everything, right? They didn't start out that way. They were an online bookseller. That was their niche. They nailed that niche. And then they started to expand out from there. So it's okay to expand out, but gosh, we got to start somewhere. And especially when we're small businesses and we have limited budgets, we really have to hone in and narrow, because to target a very broad market costs a lot of money. And if you don't have that, you're wasting your time. So let's narrow things down, right? Like I said, it just means those are the people you're going to market to and intend to attract. You can still choose to work with other people because other people are still going to come to you, right? But you have to narrow down who you intend to work with. Super important.
And this is true for really in terms of influence or anything. If you're going to start up social media channels as well. I would say it's probably something that you want to think, who are you trying to get? Or is it politics that you're going into, or is it tech field that you're going into? As you're talking, I'm thinking, man, this is job market relevant, because if you're going to go apply for a job, you got to figure out what's the area that you're going to best be suited, instead of just sending out resumes everywhere.
Yes.
Got limited time and effort. So talk to us about some of the other applications to this as well, because those were two that came to my mind. But for someone who wants to expand their influence, start something up, be an entrepreneur, where else does this relate?
Think about it. Look here. Okay, here's a perfect example. Okay. When I first met my wife, second, third date, I went to go pick her up. Okay. Show up at her apartment. She wasn't ready. She invited me in. She says, hey, I'm just going to take just a few more minutes to get ready. So I was standing there in her kitchen, and she probably forgot that this was on her refrigerator, but there was a list that had about 10 items on it of the characteristics and attributes for the person that she was looking to meet.
Nice.
Okay. So I read the whole thing. She comes out, and I said, hey, I'm a 9.5 out of 10 on your list. And she was mortified that I had seen it. And I was saying it kind of joking, but I was serious. I was like, man, damn, I'm looking pretty good here. I'm checking a lot of items off her list here. That is a perfect example, right? When we look to meet somebody that we want to spend the rest of our life with, whether it's, spouse or life partner or whatever it is, most of us start to think about that person that we want to meet. Because when we do that, now we can start to think about, well, where might this person be, right? And when I do meet somebody, I now have a measuring stick to go, are they going to be a good fit for me or not?
Right.
Why do we not do the same thing for clients?
Right.
Or the example you just brought up, why do we not do the same damn thing when we're looking for a job?
Right.
Like, look, I haven't interviewed for that many jobs because I've mostly been an entrepreneur. But the biggest mistake I thought most job seekers made when they were looking for a job was, it's like, they're not interviewing the company. I think job seekers should be interviewing the company just as much as the company's interviewing them. It's like,
absolutely.
Are they going to be a good fit for me? It's like, hey.
Aspect. I think the narrowing down here of the target, and we'll talk about how to do this as well, because I want to ask you that question. How do you come across this? But really, that narrowing down. I mean, I was in a job interview one time, and as I'm there, one of the person who was brought in as the further on in the interview, I could just tell that person wanted nothing to do with me. And I started peppering them with questions. It wasn't going to fit. And instead of just being one way, turn it around, ask them questions, get to that spot where all of us realize it's not going to go anywhere. And also for clients, I've fired clients before because they come to work with me. And I'm looking for somebody there's going to be mutual respect, not someone who's just paying me money to do something. So now another question on that. So say you weren't the man you are, and you didn't cross off 9 out of 10, is there a spot in time where you just go, I'll take anybody? Or what do you do if you're a 0 out of 10 on everybody's list?
I think that depends on everybody's situation. It's like, I can't make that decision for you or anybody else. I would just say that if it's clients or the partner you're looking for, or the company that you're looking to get a job with, don't check off enough boxes, right? At some point, I think you're going to run into problems, and it's not going to be a good fit. Now, where that threshold, where you draw the line there, that's up to you, right? You got to make that judgment call. But I think when you look at your list, you have to determine what are the non-negotiables and what are the things that you're willing to overlook. Here's another example. When you're house shopping, right? There is no perfect house. You have all these wants and desires that you want in a house. Well, you have to create the list. What are the non-negotiables? If the house does not have these 3 things, we are absolutely not buying the house. Then there's some nice to haves. And then there's some, hey, awesome if it has it, but we don't really care. right? So you got to have something to measure up with so that you can determine whether you should move forward or not.
I love this. I love the picture you're putting in my head right here. And in fact, I'm almost thinking that there's two lists that's being created. A list of what you want in somebody or some company or a client or service or whatever it is that you do, house in this case as well, or
Yep.
job, but also a list of your attributes. So when you went over to your now wife's place there and you saw
Right.
it, you knew what you had, and then all of a sudden you were able to see what she had.
Yeah.
And really, as a service provider, I jokingly said, what if you had 0 out of 10? But if you have 0 out of 10, you're not going to go anywhere and no one's going to want you.
Yep.
Or you're going to get bottom of the dregs because you're providing bottom of the dregs service or whatever it is that you're providing. But really, maybe part of this is coming up with what is it that I truly offer? What's my unique selling point, right? And then what is it that my unique selling point matches? Is that something that you walk through with people? And what kind of questions do you ask to really help them understand what value they provide and then what target they need to reach?
Yeah, so we'll get into the value side of it and the problems that you solve when we start to talk about messaging.
Okay.
But you do make a really important point. And this, to me, this really doesn't have anything to necessarily do with the fundamentals of marketing per se, but it is important as a business owner, right? You need to understand, you need to have the self-awareness to know, like, what am I good at? Like, what do I excel at? What do I suck at? And as a company, what are we great at? We're not great at everything. We have to understand what we're great at and what we're not, so that when we are talking to somebody looking at that measuring stick of going, are they going to be a good client? We're also looking at, gosh, like, do they actually have the problem that we can help them solve, or do they not? Because if they don't, it's like, hey, you know what? We can't really help you with your problem, and that's okay.
Right.
We know somebody else who can help you with that problem. If you had this problem, then we could help you. So you make a really good point. And it's funny that you bring this up because, look, I have been on well over 100 podcast interviews, and nobody has ever asked me that. Not one person. So I think that's very good insight that you brought up there. I've always assumed that you have to know what you're great at first and foremost. Then you can start to look at the people that you want to serve and how you can serve those people.
Well, it's really interesting. As you're talking about this, I have 2 companies. I'm about to start a 3rd company here with friends, my wife, and we're going to be doing some cool things around the corner with a brand new endeavor, apart from the other endeavors I have going on. But when all of this started, my real journey away from working with larger groups, organizations, or corporate America, my first thing was writing a book. And I wrote the book, and I had 2 people in mind when I wrote it, 2 real clients, and I wrote it to them. And I knew what the book was about. The book is called Speak with No Fear, so it's about speaking with no fear. Funny thing is, as I wrote it out there, it gained incredible traction. It has over 600 reviews now. And one of the people who bought it early on, when they saw it, just picked it up and bought it, obviously didn't need it. And so they just absolutely trashed the book on a review. But they weren't my target audience.
That's right.
And they didn't fear. They didn't lack. They had confidence. They picked it up because it was suggested to them because they read other books on public speaking or somehow. And I think that's a really interesting aspect about this target market. If you don't know who you are and you don't know what value you have, then the repercussions could be trashy reviews.
Yep.
The right people are not getting a hold of what you're doing. So take us through this whole process of understanding how to pick out our target audience. Say we have some entrepreneurs here, or maybe some business owners, maybe they want to expand their business. Maybe I have several people who lead at a huge level, and maybe they have a voice in the company that they're part of. So how do we take a moment to say, let's reach this market?
Yeah. So I'm going to give your audience some very actionable advice here. And this advice is assuming that you've been in business for a while. You have existing customers, you have past customers. In that case, the best place to start is with your current and past customer base. And I want you to ask yourself 3 questions. Okay. The first question is, who do we enjoy working with? Why do you want to be in business and work with people that make you want to bang your head against a wall every day? To me, that's just stupid. That makes no sense. So identify those customers that you love working with. 2, who are your most profitable customers? And a lot of people fall into the trap of starting to look at, profitable customers. Let's look at our largest customers. It is not uncommon for your largest customers to not be your most profitable. They drive top line revenue, but damn, they take up all kinds of time. They pressure you on price, so you're not making as much margin. I would not be shocked if your largest customers are not your most profitable. So look at your most profitable customers. Yeah. And then 3, who do you do your best work for? If we can serve clients that we get great results for day in and day out, they're going to keep working with us. They're going to want to do more work with us. They're going to refer us. Okay. So if you ask yourself these 3 questions, you have a subgroup of current and past customers that you love working with, they're profitable, and you get great results. That subgroup is the group that you start to dig a little bit deeper to see if you can identify ideal clients within that group.
I love, as you're talking, I'm thinking about my own journey through this one, going, okay, when I started, I didn't do this. I started my whole coaching in terms of communication. Now I get to coach these professionals, politicians, and CEOs of some incredible companies and celebrities that I can't mention. When I'm working with some of these different people, it didn't start like that. And I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't do anything that you're talking about because I didn't plan on starting something.
Right.
And going back, I wish I had, because at first it was like, hey, if someone will pay me money, I'll take it. But I got some awful situations early on where I'm helping out with somebody and I'm just going, this is miserable. And it was actually meant to be a hobby. So it was like, this is a miserable hobby. And then I got more and more exclusive. And my pricing is partly what made it more and more exclusive. As pricing went up, some of the people weren't there. But even then, I've had some people who were able to afford it, but just absolutely miserable to work with. And actually now all the clients I have right now, I've been a blast. So this is a couple of years ago. But really what you're talking about, now that I'm working with people that I just love working with, instead of about 3 years ago when I had some those cases where you get done working with somebody like, oh, just shoot me and I'm gonna quit this job and everything. But who do I like working with? So now it's, for me, the thing I really like working with, my target audience, so let's apply this to me, is professionals who realize that there's a barrier to their ongoing, continued, and growing success. So they need either leadership or communication help so that they can break through that barrier. And I do that through workshops or keynotes or books or coaching. So that's who I'm looking for. And this is a person who realizes that they have more potential, but something in communication and leadership is holding them back. But beforehand, it was just anybody who would pay for me. And as a result, I got all kinds of people who I didn't enjoy. So I love that you're talking about this. And I hope that the audience right now is thinking, man, who do I really enjoy working with? In fact, I would say to the audience right now, take a moment and write down, who is it that you enjoy working with? If you're a doctor, a lot of clients have doctors. You're an entrepreneur, who is it that you enjoy working with? And then target those people. How do you target the people you're working with? Does that come into the messaging conversation?
No. So once you've kind of honed in on that group of customers that you've served that check off those 3 boxes, then you can start to dig a little bit deeper and get into the psychographics, right? The demographics and how they behave, right? The demographics are the numbers between 35 to 55, or they live in a certain area, or they're in a certain industry, right? This starts to give you an idea of what these people are like. The psychographics are their feelings, their thoughts and feelings as it relates to what you do. Like, do they have roadblocks as it relates to what you do? What are the common problems they have? What are the results they're looking for? The behaviors about what are their behaviors around what you do? How do they buy? Right? What type of actions do they take? Those things you start to like, this starts to paint the picture of what these people are like. And what you're looking for are commonalities. Are there some subgroups from that one group that are starting to come to the surface? Those subgroups that have commonalities, those typically are your ideal clients. You should not have more than 1 to 3 ideal client types. I think if you go more than that, it becomes too broad and it's too hard to focus. But now that you know who those ideal clients are and what they look like, then the next thing you can do in the process, Mike, is say, okay, I know who these people are. I know what they think as it relates to what we do. Now I need to create a list of where they are. Where do they congregate? That's how you start to determine where you can go to target them. So let's say that I'm targeting chiropractors. Okay, I've determined that chiropractors are a great ideal client for me. Where are chiropractors? Okay, well, I don't serve chiropractors, but I use them as an example because I used it as an example in a target market workshop that I do all the time. I spent 15 minutes jumping online and I said, are there chiropractic associations? What trade shows do they go to? What manufacturers sell chiropractic equipment? Are there influencers in the chiropractic space? Are there Facebook groups, LinkedIn groups, forums, podcasts that they follow, YouTube channels that they follow? Are there, what else? Did I mention associations? I don't know. I'm just keep going down the list. There's so many different places they could be.
Right.
Well, in 15 minutes, I had 10 to 15 different things on my list.
Right.
I found 2 associations. I found a chiropractic trade magazine. I found 2 trade shows. I found 2 chiropractic equipment manufacturers. I found some podcasts, a couple influencers. Now, those are all places that if I want to work with chiropractors, I could potentially start to get in front of chiropractors in those places.
That's great.
That's how you start to target people. That's how you start to fish where the fish are.
So once you've answered that question of who are you, who do you enjoy the most, who's most profitable, and who do you get the best results for, then you can narrow it down like that and go out there. I think this is a great idea for social media. A lot of people I work with who are wanting to speak and wanting to lead because they want to build their platform. A lot of people say, well, I need to get out there on social media. And essentially, I never realized it, but I essentially am taking them through what you just said there. But where is your audience?
Who are you going to speak to?
Yeah, because I don't do TikTok.
Right, yeah.
I don't have any dance moves. No dance moves here. I'm not on Snapchat. And I just recently started getting on to Instagram. But the majority of the people that I'm connecting with, it's LinkedIn. And then the reason why I got into YouTube is because when people are looking for, how do I become a better leader? Or how do I speak? Really what I focus on so much here. How do I advance my career? A lot of people are going to YouTube. So that's actually the same question that you just led people through right here. Mm-hmm. That's how I got here. So I think that's a really interesting way to think. Okay, now I know what my target is, or if you're applying for a job, take those and twist them into job application type questions. And then where's my target audience? From there, what's the next part of that? Identifying the target and growing the target. I love this idea and I love where we're going here.
Yeah. So once you understand who your ideal clients are, you know what they're like almost better than they know themselves, right? So you can speak in their language. You've created that list of where they are. One of the last things that you can do from a target market perspective is start to look at the customer journey. And the customer journey is that experience that a prospect and a customer have from the minute they have this problem that you can solve, and they start thinking about how can I solve this problem, and they start doing research and they find people, right? All the way through buying and doing repeat and referral business. Okay. A lot of people look at the customer journey as a funnel. I think when you look at the customer journey as a funnel, you're missing the back half of it, which is repeat and referral business, which is huge for every business that I've ever come across. So the way I look at it, and I did not popularize this, this is from John Jantz over at Duct Tape Marketing. He came up with the concept of the customer journey as an hourglass, right? The sand's at the top and it's working its way through the bottom. And there's 7 steps there. It's know, like, trust, try, buy, repeat, and refer. In the middle, right? In the middle of the hourglass, you kind of got try, buy, and then at the bottom, you got repeat and refer. But we don't do business with people that we don't know, like, and trust.
Right.
So the job of our marketing is to get people to know, like, and trust us. And then when that need or problem that we can solve or address becomes so great that they raise their hand, then we've got something that they can try, buy, and do business with us. So that's the way we look at the customer journey. And one of the things that I think is critically important that a lot of people don't do is they don't map the customer journey. And when we talk about mapping the customer journey, we're talking about looking at the needs, the expectations, the actions that your prospect and your customers are taking at each phase. Because if we can understand what they're doing at each phase, then we can map what we in turn do so that we can meet those needs. We can meet those expectations. We can do marketing or put, onboarding procedures or have a referral program, right? Whatever it is we need to do to meet and address those needs at that process means that we're going to have an amazing customer journey. And if you have an amazing customer journey, you can help people move through it better, right? But you're just going to naturally grow your business as a result of that. So when you map the journey, you can figure out, where do we have gaps? And let's fill those gaps. So that's the last part. A lot of people don't think about that. They skip it. But man, it can make a huge, huge difference. Once you understand your target market and your ideal clients, then you can start to map that journey and figure out, okay, what do we need to do at each of these phases? Because the person that's at the no phase of the journey, their needs and expectations are totally different than somebody that's at the buy phase.
Right.
And we need to know what those differences are so that we know what we can and shouldn't do to help people move through that journey.
This is great. So really targeting here the customer journey. In the next time, we're going to do a part 2 here that's going to be continuing in a week from the release of this. And that right there will get into, okay, so now you have this mapped out. Now you have it targeted. You're ready. You're aware. Now, what do you say and how do you do it? So I'm looking forward to that. But this has been so good. And all this is going to be in the show notes so people can check this out. And so they can go to the show notes and check that out and download it and find that. But where can people find you if they don't want to wait till the release of this, or if they're just peaked? Where can people find you so they can reach out? Maybe they want to expand their idea or expand their market.
Sure.
Where can we do that?
So the best place is our website, Mike, which is rialtomarketing.com. That's RIALTO marketing.com. We did set up a landing page for your listeners. So this will be appropriate for both of these episodes. If they go to rialtomarketing.com / and then it's just advance-with-Mike-Acker. There's a bunch of free resources there to help with these fundamentals that we're digging into. And if they get stuck, they're hitting a ceiling, just hit the get a free consult button, and I'd be happy to chat with you and help you push through those roadblocks.
Absolutely. So we'll put that in the notes as well as just going to be right down below on the YouTube so you can check that out. But this has been great. I'm so excited to dive into the second part of this. For all those listening, make sure that you like, subscribe, follow. Make sure that you not only grab a hold of the show notes and content here to grow your business and grow your audience, but that you tune in so that you can follow up with what we're doing in part 2. Until next time, this is Mike Acker
looking to help you advance.
Thanks for listening to Advance with Mike Acker, a podcast designed to provide an edge for leaders through improving practical leadership skills and increasing confidence in speaking. Mike is a best-selling author and business owner who has helped many leaders increase their skills and their confidence, propelling them to new heights in their personal and professional endeavors. Join an incredible group of professionals taking the steps to become better leaders at connect.stepstoadvance.com. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe so you never miss an episode.